everybody, my name is Colin3639. Welcome back to another video. Today, in this one, it's going to be the top 5 meta decks in the May 2021 format post Ancient Guardians. Now, I do got some spoiler for you guys. There is no deck that came from Ancient Guardians that's on this list. I know. With all those best decks in that set, I'm so surprised. Yeah, no. Ancient Guardians was very trash. There's no decks on the top 5 that come from Ancient Guardians. But this is going to give me a reason to do one of these again. I haven't done this in about a month or two. So it's a good reason to do this again, especially since my predictions in the last one were very different to what it is now. Now, this does cover the LCS 13 that happened this past weekend's breakdown as well, so we'll be covering that as well. So we'll cover the LCS 13 breakdown, some meta cards, some honorable mention for the decks, and then get into the actual top 5 itself. Without further ado, let's get straight into the video. Now on to the LCS 13 breakdown. I did turn off my camera so you can see the breakdown for yourselves. Now, of course, this was 210 players. Now, this was a 3v3 tournament, but that's still, you know, a good, even though it's a 3v3 tournament, there's still one-on-one duels kind of things. So this will give us a good example of what the meta is shaping up to this point. As you can see, 25% of the decks people brought in was Dragon Link, which is very, very not surprising, to be honest with you, Dragon Link being one of the best decks. 15% brought other decks that are not, you know, big enough to get its own chart or its own thing on the pie chart. 14% of Invoke Shaddoll, 11% of Prank Kids, which are two decks are very on the rise right now. 9% Tri Brigade, which is very, very interesting. 9% Eldridge, 7% Dinos, which is also pretty interesting considering a lot of people consider that to be one of the top decks in the format, but not seeing that much representation. 2% Virtual World, 1% Mech Knight, 1% and Subterra. So very interesting LCS breakdown here. Some are surprising and some others are not surprising at all. Now on to the top 24 breakdown. So the top 24 decks out of all 210. Now Dragon Link did get a 33% of the decks, 8 decks going into the top 24, which is, you know, not surprising. Still one of the most represented decks. Still, dinosaurs shoot up there now because as in the last pie chart, it wasn't that much representation, but it did have a good transfer cut into now the second most represented out of the top 24. Zodiac, that didn't even get its own thing on the chart in the last breakdown, now has a 16% breakdown, or 16% into the top 24, which is very, very interesting. And then El Shaddoll Invoked is on the 16% as well. Prank Kids at 12%, and then Outledge at 4%. So yeah, very surprising. Zodiac, that didn't even get its own chart, getting into a really good top cut there for the top 24 there. So yeah, without further ado though, let's get into some meta cards. Starting off with Dragoon. Oh boy, this has been a card. Now, a lot of decks have been taking advantage of this deck or this card somehow not being on the ban list in any way, shape, or form by either, you know, playing 3 Red Eyes Fusion or, you know, playing the Verte and the Conda stuff to go along and then pull out Dragoon at the end of all the combos. A lot of rogue decks are using Dragoon just because Dragoon is stupid. Dinosaurs have been pulling it out as a Link 2 to go into Verte after they link off Link Rebo and stuff like that. So it's just a very interesting, it seems like the only deck that doesn't use it seems like Zodiacs and like Dragon Link. It seems like every other deck can actually play Dragoon if it wants to. It's not a big surprise. This card is very, very stupid, has a negation effect, cannot be targeted nor destroyed at all. And then it has a effect where if it can destroy monsters on the field equal to the number of normal monsters you send for its materials, which usually people play the Red Eyes, Black Dragon, and Dark Magician, just so they can send 2 normal monsters to get its bottom effect off as well. And then you destroy the monster, then inflict damage equal to their attack to your opponent, which is very, very stupid. It's wow, that's very stupid effect. So a lot of people have been playing this deck, or a card, my bad, and that's not a surprise. Dragoon is very, very stupid. If you can somehow fit it into your deck, why wouldn't you? Dragoon is just a very, very good card. Now, there's, you know, been a lot of ways to out it, which is probably why it's not on the ban list right now. But, you know, Dragoon is a very good card and a very good meta card without a Next thing on the list is a Divine Arsenal AA Zeus. No shit. Oh boy. So basically this is a card. Oh my god. Man, this is just a really, really stupid card. This does not have a once return. So it doesn't have a once return. So quick effect, it can just detach one material to send all cards on the field to the graveyard except himself. That is a quick effect that's not once per turn. So, Zodiac usually try to get 6 materials on Zeus so they can just, always have that effect activated. If you try to negate it, again, they can just keep chaining to any of the activations to make sure everything gets sent before he gets that negation off. A lot of the XYZ decks like to, play this card because, again, if you do play an XYZ monster, why not play Zeus? Because, again, if you just play an XYZ monster, if you just end up attacking with that XYZ monster, you can suddenly just get to Zeus. Very, very stupid card, without a doubt. Now, a lot of decks can be using this. Now, not every deck can use this. Dragon Link focuses on Link monsters, so they can't pull out XYZ monsters. Same thing go with Dinos. I know they pull out Dolka, but they don't really go into Zeus after that or anything like that. This is more just if you can pull out an XYZ monster, you can go into Zeus. And some of the top decks don't use XYZ monsters, so it's not used in every deck, but it is a very good card. If you can pull it out, why wouldn't you pull it out? So that is another meta card. Next thing up is Forbidden Droplet / Dark Ruler No More, as they effectively do the same effect. That's why I've decided to put both of them together. Now, if you don't know their effects, we'll start with Dark Ruler first. Dark Ruler No More will negate all the effects negate all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls, but until the end phase, they take no damage for the rest of the turn as well. And then neither player can activate monster effects in response to Dark Ruler No More, which is very interesting because you just activate it, their monsters get negated unless they have a spell or trap that does negate Dark Ruler No More, which in most cases when you're playing this against a combo deck, they usually don't. So that is very interesting there. And then Forbidden Droplet is the same type of effect. You can send any number of cards to the graveyard, then not target, but, target any monsters your opponent controls up to the cards you sent, negate their effects. Again, this doesn't target, I'm just saying it to make it easier. You get to choose the monsters you want to negate, and then your opponent cannot respond to the effect of Forbidden Droplet depending on what you sent. So if you sent a monster, they cannot respond by a monster effect. Now, Forbidden Droplet is the better one because you can end up negating their entire board and still end up killing them because you can actually inflict damage to them. Now, Dark Ruler is a cheaper alternative to Forbidden Droplet because Dark Ruler is like a common at $5. So, this is a really, really common, less expensive card than Forbidden Droplet, which is like going for like $120 right now. So yeah, both cards effectively do the same thing, but that's why I put it together. One is, is somewhat better than the other one, but one is also cheaper than the other one. But yeah, that is it for the meta cards. Now let's get into some honorable mentions. Honorable mention starting off with is Tribagage, which actually did see a surprising amount of representation in the LCS. Now, I don't think any of it made top cut. Maybe like a Zodiac Tribagage version made it, and that's just the one deck, and that also has Zodiac in it. Now, this deck, a lot of people have been hyping it up because, it has a very good thing. It can set up, it's kind of like with Bird Up as well, kind of thing. You can set up a lot of stuff to make sure your opponent cannot play with things like the barrier statue. But that's more with the Bird Up stuff. Now, Pure Tribagage can, set up into Link monsters. They have Tribagage Revolt that has basically a quick effect Link summon, and it can use banished materials as well to spell summon on the field and then link off those monsters into a Link monster of your choosing. So yeah, very good deck. Now, this is a deck that gets better by the start of next month because Lightning Overdrive does release next month, and Lightning Overdrive does get this deck their new Link 2 monster, which is able to search out Tribagage Revolt, the one card I just explained. They have no way to search it right now besides, maybe something like Trap Tricks or something like that. But the Link 2 that they get in Lightning Overdrive will be able to help them get that searching off. So that's going to be a very good card to look out for, and this is going to be a very good deck to look out for. Right now it's an honorable mention because, again, it did see some good representation but it really didn't transfer to the top cut at all in any way. But this is a deck to look out for your eye on because it does get more support in Lightning Overdrive, so it could be a deck that gets better in the future, but it is an honorable mention for now. And then my other honorable mention is Zodiac as well. Now, Zodiac in its pure version can play a shit ton of hand traps and then just go straight into Zeus, and that's how it usually does be played. But it is also a splashable deck with things like Outreach, it seems like Tribagage as well. So that's very good. You can either play a pure version of the deck or you can just splash it into other decks as well. Now, just because it can make Zeus doesn't mean it can just suddenly be a top deck. It needs more stuff than that. That's why a lot of people do decide to splash it in with other decks. Now, it's just an honorable mention just because it's just a Zeus engine and that's about it. Without Zeus, there's really no point in playing the Zodiacs. So that's why it's an honorable mention and not in the actual top 5, like I did have it in my other top 5 meta decks a couple months ago. This is just an honorable mention just because it's a Zeus engine, and that's about it, and that's why it is on your honorable mention. Now, without further ado, though, let's get into the top 5. Coming in at number 5, and it hurts me to put it here, but it is Outreach. Yeah, surprisingly enough, when Outreach uses its best matchup against Virtual World, 3FD and stuff like that, it's not that much of a contender. Now, again, it didn't see that much representation, and then it actually didn't have that much in going in for the top cut as well. Now, I still think it's a very good deck. Scarlet Sanguine is kind of a stupid card. That should probably be limited, but it is at 3 currently right now. Outreach the Golden Lord, again, is just a better blaster. Basically, he can set himself in a spell or trap to send target one monster to send, target one card to send it to the graveyard. My bad. It's not even a monster, which is surprising. It has a good recoverability. It has a good splash ability as well. A lot of people like to play the Zodiacs with the Outreach. Now, my favorite type of the deck for this is Zombie Outreach. A lot of people on this channel like it as well. If you do want to see a Zombie Outreach deck profile, I'll put in the link in the description down below. But it just hurts me to put it here. I understand why it's this low. There's better decks out in the once we get more into the top 5, you can see why this is at number 5, because the other decks have a good counter ability against Outreach, and also, just a very, very good deck, but just compared to other decks in the format is just not as good as it once used to be. This used to be a top 3 deck in the last format, and now it barely scraps the top 5 list. This could change by the end of next month with Lightning Overdrive. That's a set that looks like it's going to change the meta a little bit, so maybe by the end of the start of next month, this probably won't even be in the top 5. Really surprising, because a lot of people was wanting Scarlet to be limited, but, Outreach didn't get that much representation, didn't really get that much of a top cut either, so I did put it at number 5, even though how much it does hurt me. So that is your number. Coming in at number 4 is Dinosaurs, and man, oh man, this is very low for a deck a lot of people thought would probably be number 2 in this format. But, it's not surprising. A lot of people have figured out weaknesses to the Dinosaur deck. Artifact Lancia alone would shut down this deck, and it's probably the worst nightmare for Dinosaur players. But it does have a good breakability. It can break boards very easily with things like Mist, Soul Eating Overwrapper being able to chain block with Lost World, and stuff like that. It's a very, very good deck, but it didn't see that much representation in the LCS. Now, it did make a lot of top cuts, even though they had a small representation. It did make a lot of top cuts, and why it's number 4, because even though it didn't see that much representation, the top cut was very good for itself, because it was the second most played deck in the top cut. So very interesting. Dinosaurs is a very good deck. I'm surprised a lot of people weren't playing it, but I can understand why. There's a lot of weaknesses, Artifact Lancia and stuff like that. Now, this is another deck that gets better once Lightning Overdrive comes out with the release of Scrap Raptor, which basically makes this a little bit of a combo deck, which can help them get into Appaloosa, Boral Sword, and stuff like that. So maybe by the end of next month, this could be a probably top 3, maybe even in the 2, maybe even number 1, depending on how good Scrap Raptor is. Very good for the Dinos. So this is a deck to look out on, because Scrap Raptor is in the future, and this deck can definitely play it. So, but right now it is at number 4, because the decks above it can beat it, and then it has its weaknesses as well. But then again, every deck does have its weaknesses. It just seems like this deck has more of a weakness than other decks. So yeah, that is number 4. Coming in at number 3, it is Prank Kids. Man, oh man, have this meta showed us something. Now, this has always been a deck in like the past year or so that a lot of people have been, hyping up and never really, doing anything until this format. They finally are good and probably the top 3 deck in the entire format. Now it makes sense because of course Prank Kids Battle Butler is basically a double Regeki on the field because it has the Link 1 monster in Prank Kids Meow Meow to basically banish itself to activate Prank Kids Battle Butler's effect, and then Prank Kids Battle Butler's effect is not once per turn, so he can end up tributing himself to do it again. So basically a double Regeki. The Prank Kids have a good recoverability. They have a lot of cards that can shuffle things back into the deck and stuff like that. And then it's a very good time deck as well because it has a lot of burn in the deck. Lamsies can burn your opponent for 500. Dropsies can make the player who's playing Prank Kids gain 1,000 life points. Now that does matter. It's maybe not in like dueling book and stuff like that, but that does matter when it comes to LCSs or dual extravaganzas because those events do have time, and then Prank Kids really do come up in time because how much they burn your opponent and how much they gain life points for yourself. So a very, very good deck without a doubt. The help of Meow Meow finally coming out in Phantom Rage very much helped this deck. It just took a bit. It took one format for them to get used to it and everything. And now it's the top 3 deck. Again, a lot of people didn't see this coming because a lot of people have been hyping up Prank Kids forever now, but it's finally doing something, and I'm happy for it. It's very good. It's very stoppable still, but I'm very happy this deck is finally doing something, and that is why it's coming in at number 3 for me. Coming in at number 2 is Invoked Shaddoll. Man, I love this deck. Now, this deck has always been around kind of thing, but it feels like in this meta, and specifically this meta, it's been very, very good. Alistair the Invoker. Of course, Alistair can go fuck itself. I hate that engine, but the Shaddoll engine does make it good, because not only does they don't need to use Invocation to go into Mechaba and stuff like that. They can use Invocation to go into their own Shaddoll monsters and stuff like that. This deck is very good, especially with El Shaddoll Winda, since they can search out Schism from the by sending it to the graveyard and then adding back from graveyard to hand, setting it, and basically waiting for their opponent to special summon and then summoning the Winda, and basically that's game from there. Winda is very, very good card. I'm not surprised this deck has finally come, because Winda's always been a good card. But in this deck, once Dragon Link and Dinos need a special summon and stuff like that, same thing with Prank Kids. Winda is a very, very good card against that. And it has, again, since it plays the Alistair deck, or plays the Alistair engine, it can play the Mechaba and stuff like that to prevent itself from somehow getting negated by a monster spell or trap card. Now, again, this is a deck that does lose to Forbidden Droplet, but then again, every deck loses to Forbidden Droplet in Dark Ruler No More. But even then, it's like, man, this deck is very good. I'm happy to see it's finally getting a lot of top cuts and seeing, or not a lot of representation, and then a lot of top cuts as well. I do hate the Invoked engine, but the Shaddoll engine is very fun to watch. Finally, this deck is finally doing something very good to watch. And yeah, this comes in at number 2, thanks to just Winda. And coming in at number 1, and no fucking surprise, it is Dragon Link. Oh boy, this has been the top deck in the entire format. Now, from number 2 to 5, you can argue they can be switched places however you want. Even the honorable mentions, they can switch places however you want. But number 1 is definitely defined as Dragon Link. You can see it in the representation it had. You can see it in the top cuts they had. Dragon Link is just the best deck in the entire format right now, with things like Guard Dragon LP, Striker Dragon. They have a shit ton of Link 1s to go to, and then they play the Rocket package, and the Rocket package and basically recur itself, play the Chaos Spaces and stuff to get the white Wyvern Burster and the Black Collapse Serpent, which just helps the deck even more. This deck is ridiculous, has Chaos Levianeer as well. It sets up a board of Heretic Seal, a Tidying, because they do play Chamber Dragon Maid. So the Tidying, Heretic Seal, and a Boral Swords Savage Dragon. Now, you think that's breakable, but 2 disruptions by returning cards back to your hand is stupid with Heretic Seal and, of course, Tidying, and then Boral Sword with the negation. They can sometimes set up that Appaloosa as well if they have a very good hand. So it is very interesting, and then once they have that, and they can, this is a deck that has a good comeback ability. So if their board does get breaking, they have a lot of stuff in the graveyard that can help them get back, like Chaos Ruler and stuff like that. And this is just a very, very good deck. And surprisingly enough, the combo is very hard to stop. Sometimes Nibiru can't even stop this combo. Ash Blossom and Ghost Bell seems like it's Ash Blossom and Gamma seems like it won't do anything against this deck, as it has a lot of stuff that can keep getting itself off, like Quick Launch and stuff like that. This deck is just absolutely ridiculous. Now, the Guard Dragon LP being one of the best cards in the entire deck by stuff summoning a dragon from deck. Man, this deck is just ridiculous, and why a lot of people are complaining for this deck to finally get banned with something like a Guard Dragon LP ban or like a Rocket Tracer ban and stuff like that. So yeah, this is my number one. Yeah, Dragon Link without a doubt is the best deck in the entire format. But wait, we got one more entry. And of course, number 0 Tunes. Man, nothing can beat this deck. Has the best field spell in the entire game. Mystic Mine is nothing compared to Toon Kingdom. Has a Snatch Steal for the archetype and Comic Hand. Very good. Tunes are the best deck in the entire format. A tier 0 deck in the making. Yeah, yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe for more content on the channel. I do upload every single day, except for Saturday and Sunday, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.